welcome back to The Matrix. Hey, am I being more impatient than usual, or does Series 13 just feel like it's never gonna come? After so many breaks and the unsatisfying half season that was this year, doesn't it just feel intangible at this point? This, in all honesty, is why I find myself scrounging for any 13 story I can get my hands on. I've just about exhausted the cameos, the comics, the novels, and the VR games. And through my search, I've come across something very fun indeed. The 13th Doctor, in her first ever story, is an assassin. Hang on, I don't remember that. Fair enough, it's not a very memorable story. What I'm actually referring to is the first true appearance of the 13th in a short prose poem by James Goss. I hear you doubting me. Well, would it make things any better if I told you it was actually a Russell touch? True, the Death List might be a lyrical short story by Goss, but the collection's illustrator, Russell T. Davies, cheekily and discreetly nabbed first dibs on the 13th Doctor, making it her first outing ever published. Very naughty. And this was all based on pure speculation. Russell T. Davies filled a whole poem book full of nudge nudge wink wink hints that the next Doctor might own a clitoris. That's quite the gamble, but it paid off. In the Death List, an unspecified Doctor has set up camp in the King's Court. Having been established here for a while, the Doctor is also the mysterious masked assassin, a possible mercenary working only for the throne. But when the King decides he wants the Doctor herself dead and hires the masked assassin to do it, a royal revolution is on her hands. Now, not only did Russell decide to illustrate a Doctor wearing stilettos with a feminine, slender figure, more slender, but he actually asked James Goss to amend the pronoun, leaving the gender of the Doctor ambiguous in the story. The accompanying drawing, though, was anything but ambiguous, as this female Doctor explicitly has the number 13 hidden in her robes. Russell T. Davies nabbed the first Whittaker story to be released all the way back in 2017, right from under Chibnall's feet, before the announcement happened. You snooze, you lose, Chris. Fair's fair though, after he stole Davis's scenes, villains, cliffhangers, characters and emotional beats. There's also the short story Contents, about a trunk containing items belonging to each Doctor, and unless 8 was embracing his feminine side, and hey, maybe, there's very clearly lipstick and a handbag in there. You're not fooling anyone, Russell. Now, these aren't really articles associated with Whittaker's Doctor, as we currently know her, but the intent is very clear. Hang on a minute. Sarah Jane once said the Sonic lipstick was a leftover present from the Doctor. Hang on, no, this doesn't belong to 13, this is definitely 8's. New headcanon. Davies actually gets so on the nose that he draws Capaldi looking towards a female mannequin. Even if my hunch was wrong, there was time with the publishing to have removed any of these, but actually they're all quite speculative. Yeah, alright Russell, you knew.
Ted, what's your question?
Hello, Ted.
Would you ever write the Doctor regenerating into a woman?
Oh, good question.
That's a cheeky, controversial one.
Of all of the revival showrunners, I don't think there's anyone who likes playfully tinkering with the canon more than Russell. During Moffat's tenure, he got to write the 11th Doctor one time and used his small chance to hint at the idea of the Time Lord's changing race, the Doctor's true age, and 10's regeneration farewells extending to everybody he's ever known. Posthumously, Russell can't help himself, and I am all here for it. Moffat supposedly called it quits on writing more Who in any capacity, but I sincerely hope Russell T. Davies never throws in the towel. For the last few years, I just imagine him popping his head over the fence and throwing these coy little fun ideas at us. I'm just saying, if I were ex-showrunner, that's the kind of trouble I'd be creating. There's actually a number of solo Whittaker stories with no companions. I wouldn't hazard a guess as to where these take place yet, because we don't know her whole timeline. But Rhino on 34th Strand Street, Scratchman, the Missy Chronicles, Day of the Doctor, the VR games, not a mention of Ryan, Graham or Yaz. No, 13's either getting really distracted on our Gallifrey moping sessions, or this is a future 13 we haven't met yet, which I'm really excited for. In the Missy Chronicles, she's established herself as a museum curator in Venice for whatever reason, and when Moffat briefly wrote her, she sat on a park bench talking to the moment about the events of saving Gallifrey. Awkward conversation now, when you come to think of it. Next fact. I demand something about monkeys. Close enough. The Ogrons were not in the classic series of Doctor Who. Yeah, I've seen Frontier in Space. Yeah, I've seen Day of the Daleks. Carnival of Monsters? Yeah, maybe only 100 times. But Big Finish's Time War box set tells us there's something very funky going on with them. Volume 2 isn't a great set, probably the most middling of purchases I've made. But for my money, the highlight is a weird little story called Planet of the Ogrons. The Doctor's TARDIS lands on Gallifrey. The Time Lords watch as the doors open, revealing a Ogron wearing a cravat, claiming he is the Doctor. Woo! My god, there's so many Doctor variants now that there's even a Dr. Ogron. An experiment of the Dalek Overseer programmed with all of the Doctor's memories and personality traits. Oh, so that's where the 8th Doctor's memories keep going off to. Dr. Ogron, in fact, was such a good copy that he could regenerate. Meaning, hey, if you wanted a spin-off series starring John Colcher as Dr. Ogron, Big Finish wouldn't say no, would they? Spam their Twitter page! Look, as great as Ogron Doctor is, this story is more about the unnatural relationship between the Daleks and the Ogrons. As we find out, the Ogrons were never originally in those stories. The version that we watch when we put in our Day of the Daleks DVD is the Time War altered version of events, where the Daleks injected Ogrons into their previous battles and victories. A Dalek special edition, if you will. Sorry, bad joke. That is incredibly interesting. And also makes me want to make a fan edit where I edit out every single instance of Ogrons in the classic series. The Master shouting at his computer. The Doctor shooting at nothing. The Doctor and Joe just driving around on a tricycle. Please make that an optional setting in the next re-release. I guess Carnival of Monsters might count, but this mostly brings up more questions. Who is real? Is anything in the classic series real? Is the Merca real? Are Cybermen real? Oh shit, is William Hartnell real? I like this move from Big Finish because it's not a canon plaster, it's a change to the original canon that just inspires new ideas. It's a cool concept. They didn't have to make that change, but they did, and I respect them for it. When so many of these Time War stories play it so safe, stuff like this reminds you that the Time War event has ramifications in the entire series and its history. It makes you wonder why there's even such things as fan continuity issues in the first place. Just point to the Time War. It's as good a catch-all excuse as you're gonna get. Why does regeneration look different? Why do all Daleks look like this now? The unit dating controversy. Time War, Time War, Time War. Boom, it's just that easy. If you have any contradictions or counter-arguments to this point, I will be taking no questions at this time. I deeply do not care.
Your report?
We found and destroyed the enemy.
Any complications?
No complications.
Good.
And last of all, gimme monkeys, gimme monkeys. No monkeys. Yeah, no, this one's as crazy as it reads. There's really no explaining this one. Keep an eye on Jackie Tyler next time you're watching The Christmas Invasion, because she gets up to some hijinks, and I'm not talking about late night visitors. While the Doctor, Rose and Mickey were on the Sycorax ship, Jackie was briefly visited by the 3rd Doctor, Joe Grant, and Captain Mike Yates. Yes! I love this show! Who had been answering a distress call that they received in the TARDIS, made by Harriet Jones, although Jackie initially assumed that the Doctor she knew had changed again, and Joe and Mike were the regenerated Rose and Mickey. Ah! It's so good! She soon came to understand that the 3rd Doctor was a younger version of Tennant. Man, imagine the day Jackie Tyler is having. But before there's time to work out the specifics, the 3rd Doctor is attacked by Jackie's Christmas tree. My word, it's the dreaded Autons. Nah, we already dealt with them lot. Doctor, this is a really weird crossover. Why am I always here? The gang try and find unit headquarters, which has been moved to the Tower of London. Trying to convince the bouncer that he is actually the Doctor, the story resolves itself, and the 10th Doctor gets it done to do. But it gets better. Returning to Jackie's flat, the group encounter the Master, trapped by another Christmas tree decoration after following the Doctor to her flat. The Master was trying to meet up with the Sycorax, giving them an offer they couldn't refuse. Yeah, good plan, went well. Anyway, the 3rd Doctor sends him packing. Dr. Chop flirts with Jackie briefly, and then goes back to his own time, leaving Jackie, to continue on like nothing happened. Maybe she's used to this, maybe different incarnations of the Doctor come along to Jackie's flat for adventures all the time. Imagine being so boring that you don't believe in the story where Jackie Tyler teamed up with Pertwee to defeat the Master. My god, transformative trivia like that just gives me life. Something so bizarre that I can never watch the original piece of media in the same way ever again. It should now be mentioned that Jackie has had more adventures with different iterations of the Doctor than Rose has. Jackie Tyler also had many house calls from Captain Jack Harkness, with Big Finish even releasing a crossover story between them. You can't convince me that these two haven't done it, it's just not feasible. As in his own series, Captain Jack has also taken her to a luxury space cruise ship, so infer from that what you will. And I'll leave you with that mental image. Until next time.